Houston, before we get started with the episode, Monique, did you have anything you want to say?
Just that maybe like, I don't know, 98% of the work that I do is behind the scenes and
Okay.
quiet.
Okay.
So I really appreciate you keeping me in mind
Okay.
and inviting me to come in and be on
Okay.
the
All
show.
right. All right.
Excited to talk with you today.
Okay. Okay. A couple of birthday shout outs. I want to say happy belated to my dog, Cliff Morris, head coach Walter basketball. Um, happy belated birthday to Todd Lewis. Happy belated birthday to Nipsey Hussle. Rest in
Oh,
peace.
yes. The marathon
Um,
continues.
yes, yes, yes. Happy belated birthday to well, no, happy not happy belated birthday, but happy birthday to my dog Addie of Addie Daddy Seasonings.
Oh,
His birthday is on the
yay.
18th, and
Happy birthday, Addie.
yeah. So Houston, Texas. Let's get into the episode. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Dear John, the iconic legend Quincy Jones said, "To know where you came from makes it easier for you to get where you're going." Sean Diddy Combs said, "Everyone has challenges and lessons to learn. We wouldn't be who we are without them." If 2018 and the last 6 years taught you something, it's that anything is attainable with the right focus and determination. Continue to build. Continue to promote your vision. Continue to inspire creativity and make more creatives. In closing, Nas said, "No idea is original. There's nothing new under the sun. It's never what you do, but how it's done. The first chapter of your vision's movements is done. However, you're still a visionary. Peace and blessings. John Ross."
Yo, it feel like 95. Sachi on my body. Biggie, jigger, puppy. All that ballin' is a hobby. And I'm wildin' in my wallet.
Houston, Texas. Welcome back to episode number 26 of the What's Next podcast, a production of Still Visionary Inc. My name is John Ross Dike the first, and before we get started with the episode, Monique, I want to introduce our social media handles
Okay.
so we don't disrupt the flow of the conversation when we get to that point.
Okay.
Okay. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at John Ross Dyke and still_visionary. If you would, connect with me on LinkedIn, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like my Facebook page, and visit my website at stillvisionary.com. Monique.
I only have one.
Okay. Okay.
It's Instagram. So
Okay.
you can follow me at I am Writerbae. That's WRITERBAE, all one word. I
Okay.
am Writerbae.
Okay. Okay. So, a couple of household rules. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode pack number 19. Well, I'm sorry, episode pack number 25. Last episode, I wore this What's Next episode podcast T-shirt, but you can get the three right here at a special rate. Inbox me on Instagram or Twitter or send me an email, stillvisionaryinc@gmail.com for those. Monique, before we get started with the episode again, I want to first and foremost apologize to you. Okay, I was a little tardy.
Just a little bit.
I was a little tardy. Okay,
Just
I was a little
bit
tardy. But I'm feeling good today because we won this tournament that we were doing for high school volleyball today. So it's been a great day thus far.
Okay.
And my wife always complains about me coming into the house smelling like outside, right? So I didn't want to do you like that.
And
So
I appreciate that.
no
I
doubt,
appreciate the
no
respect,
doubt.
the forethought,
No doubt,
the
no doubt.
consideration.
No
I
doubt.
appreciate all that.
I appreciate that, man. So I apologize for being late. So in knowing that I was going to be late, right? I wanted to make sure. See, I say that this is the hottest podcast in the city,
Okay.
right? This is the hottest podcast in the city because it's self-produced, okay? And I make every T-shirt that I wear on the podcast, right? So
Right.
I was thinking, I looked at the email you sent me about the book,
Mm-hmm.
okay, which we're gonna get to in a few, right? And I was thinking, what can I do different to up the level?
Okay.
All right. What can I do different to up the level? I looked at your signature at the end of the email.
Okay.
Right. And I don't have the official logo, but I took your logo and I put it on a shirt for you.
What?
So I wanted to present that to you. Just,
Thank
just to show you that,
you.
this is the hottest podcast in Houston, Texas.
I
And
love it.
to lead into this, ladies and gentlemen, we're moving seasons, and if you need anything pressed or printed, I'm your guy. Holla at me, man. Still underscore visionary on IG and Twitter. So, how are you?
I'm well.
Okay.
Cannot complain.
Okay.
How about you? Well, I know you're doing well. Y'all won your tournament.
Yes, I'm well too. I'm well too. In high spirits. The school year's getting ready to start.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that we're back in the flow of things, waking up early in the morning
Right.
and trying to get to school on time, punching in, punching out. So when I get moments to on the weekend to do this podcast, it's a lovely feeling.
I bet
It's a lovely feeling. Yes.
That creative release is always a nice.
Yes. So listen, I believe that creativity comes from experiences.
Okay.
Would you agree?
I would.
Okay. And you never know what people will end up doing that you knew in college. Everybody goes to college, and we figure because we're all in college, we're gonna get this 4-year degree. We're gonna go out and make society a better place. And then along that path, somebody gets the notion to, i.e., become a poet, or i.e., start a journey of acting, rapping, music, musicianship, whatever, and writing a book, which you so happen to have done, right?
I did do that.
So I forgot one thing. Houston, Texas. My I apologize. This is so out of order. I should have written it down. But my editor is doing her own. She just launched her blog. Her name is Tempest Green. Make sure that you check out her blog at tempestlives.org. All right, tempestlives.org. But back to you, Monique. So creativity comes from experiences. All right, creativity comes from experiences, and people decide that they want to do certain things in life. Right. Take us back to what you did after you graduated from college.
Okay. Well, I graduated back in December of 2008.
Okay.
So that was around the time that the economy was like not popping.
Okay.
And I knew I wanted to write. Specifically, I wanted to do like film and television.
Okay.
But I felt really kind of lost at that time, just like in terms of the best way to pursue something like that, especially with the pressures of feeling like now that I'm out of school, I need to be working. I need to be able to take care of myself. I need to be more independent. So it's just a lot going on at that particular time, which is what actually inspired the story, because I felt like if I'm feeling like that and I have some friends who feel like that, everybody has that transitional period from their carefree, childhood days, if you will, into young adulthood, where you're 100% responsible for yourself. And it's not always a smooth transition. So that's what actually inspired the story. And and even though I'm interested in film and television, I could only see that story as a novel. That's the way I saw it in my mind. Which is what inspired me to go ahead and write the book.
Okay, so when you said a book, you're talking about the current excerpt that you sent me to read and check out, or you talking about the one before?
That's an interesting story.
Okay.
Because they're both kind of the same thing.
Okay.
So
well, listen, we got time.
Okay.
Okay, let's look. I want to get everything out. Yes, let's get into it.
Okay. So when I wrote the book initially, the title of that novel was The Graduate, and again, it was inspired just by that feeling of what comes next. How do I fill the void or bridge the gap between what I thought my life was going to be and what it actually is? So that was the inspiration for the story. Of course, juiced up for your entertainment.
Of course.
But that was the foundation of it.
Yeah.
So when I wrote that, again, I was trying to establish myself, just kind of get my bearings in general, career-wise and, just otherwise. So it took me, I worked on it in my spare time on and off for about like 2 or 3 years. Okay. And so once it was done, I was very proud of it. We put it out. But after all the fanfare and everything died down and I was looking over it again, I just personally felt like it was a good start, but I felt like I could bring more to the story.
Okay.
So for a period of time after that, I just kept thinking about how, oh, I wish I would have approached a certain thing a certain way, or I wish I would have did this other way. And to the point where I didn't feel inspired. I wanted to move on, work on other projects. I couldn't move past that point. So I finally just had a conversation with myself and said, well, then just go in and fix it. Whatever is bothering you about it, just go in and fix it. And then you can remove that mental block and move on to other things. So that's what you read, was me kind of retooling the original story. So I kept the same message, the same feel, the same essence of it, but I just retooled it so that because I've just grown as a writer. You know how it is when you're creative. You're constantly evolving and growing and studying and doing things. So I wanted it to reflect in the work.
Okay.
So it's basic. It's the same story, but not. It's retooled. It's the remix, if you will.
Okay.
So that's how I got from the original story to this one.
Okay. So you so you went to college at U of H.
I did.
Okay. And what was your major?
Communications.
Okay. So did you take like a writing class when you were going through your major that kind of inspired it, or?
Well, I always wanted to write.
Okay.
My whole life, since age like 9 or so, something like that. Elementary school. I always wanted to write, so I always knew that. I didn't really know in the beginning what that meant or like how one becomes that.
Yeah.
But I also just put that part out of my mind and just figured when it's time for me to know, I'll know. But that's what I want to do. So I always known. So when I got to school, I did study communications. My concentration was media production.
Okay.
So I got kind of an introduction, if you will, to television production through that. And I ended up right before I graduated, maybe the semester before I graduated or a year before, I added English creative writing as one of my minors.
Okay.
So that was my first like formal introduction to the craft of writing. Because growing up, I was always writing stuff, creating stories. I was always doing stuff. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was always dabbling. So that experience was my very first experience, like having somebody who knows what they're talking about, knows what they're doing, peers who've been studying this forever, sit in a room with me and kind of school me in like just the craft part of it. So I was pretty new in terms of when I wrote the Graduate, my first novel. I was pretty new to kind of more of a formal way of approaching literature, which is why I think I kind of felt always like it was okay. Like, I'm proud of the effort. I'm proud of the result, but I know it still could have been even better than that if I had sat with it for a while longer. So that's really what just motivated me to, retool it. But in retooling it, I got really into it. So it actually inspired a sequel, which is also the new one is done, the sequel is done, and then I have an outline for a third one that I haven't started yet, but is in the works.
That's what always fascinates me about being a creative or becoming a creative, the fact that you could have a desire, right? And then your desire is met by just experiences from your life and what you've experienced and what you're experiencing. So the fact that it's almost like not many people know this. Okay. Back in my heyday, when I was at University of Houston too, I had when President Obama was going into office, I had done this whole little tour where I went to New York, I was staying in Pennsylvania, and my homegirl, Kimberly Celestine, was living in Delaware.
Okay.
So I went out there for the inauguration, and a crazy experience happened to me while I was out there. I started to jot it down. 55,000 words later, I thought I was going to write a book. Okay. I'm just, in all honesty, I thought I was going to write a book. Then I got into a relationship with my now wife then, and the inspiration behind the book that was driving the book, because the book was supposed to be a love story of a guy who meets a girl, right? And he keeps in contact with her over the phone, right? And at arm's length, he realizes where his position is in her life and goes from that aspect as opposed to trying to become that love interest. He coaches her to get to her love interests.
Okay.
So I mean, I fell out of it because I no longer I would write towards it every day.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I mean, I have a goal. I want to write 1,000 words today, and I would do that. And I did it on my dad's time, and I just never finished it. But I still have it. It's 55,000 words. So if I could give it to anybody to complete it, I would love to.
Okay. Well, I am an author, screenwriter, and ghostwriter.
Okay.
Yeah,
I saw that.
Maybe we can finish that.
I would love to send it to you for you to read it to tell me what you think about it.
Okay, I'd love to take a look.
So the one thing that I loved about the book that you sent me to read, the part that you sent me to read, was the descriptiveness about it. I love the way. See, sometimes when I'm reading books, I can kind of nod off. I'm not a really strong reader.
Okay.
I can kind of nod off. With your book, my biggest thing with your book was finding time to sit down and read it.
Mm-hmm.
The moment I read it, from the first line I read, I was captivated. Okay. And I wanted to tell you that. I wanted to save it because you had hit me. You was like, just tell me what you think in the email. And I was like, nah, I'm going to wait. Because I want it to be authentic when I say it. I don't want to have to say it outside of here and then repeat it again.
Right.
But I thought it was captivating. I thought that if it was, it seemed real to me. Like this is really what's going on. But it's just that you changed that name, and when you said, I wrote down a question, and I'll get to that question in a second. But I just love the way that you described your movements in it, how you and your friend, I don't know if that was you.
Well, no, it was based, the way I felt when I was graduating inspired the book, but it's not necessarily anything that happened to me.
Okay.
If it was what happened to me, you would be bored.
And that's what I believe made the book so interesting, because this is what people go through.
Right.
You have a friend that you come up with, and y'all go to college, but then whatever profession that y'all take on kind of splits you a little bit. So whereas you're thinking that you can always rekindle that childhood, association, camaraderie, that professionalism that you acquire kind of push off.
Life just takes you in different directions sometimes.
Correct.
That part, I think the themes of the book are pulled directly from reality.
And that's what I loved about it.
The themes of the book, because everybody has this grand idea of what their life is going to be when they're in school, or when they're preparing for school, or even for people who don't go to a traditional college or university. If they go to trade school, if they learn on the job, etc. Everybody has this grand idea of what their life is going to be. And then you get in the real world, and for 99.9% of people, it is not that way. Mm-hmm. And some people can adapt much easier than others. For those of us who had a hard time adapting, you just kind of flounder. You're just out there, you're lost, you're trying to figure it out, you're not getting it. And that feeling of, I should be doing more, but I'm not, or I should know what I'm doing, but I don't, that feeling of not knowing what's going on, some people cope with that in healthy ways, and some people don't. Mm-hmm. So of course that's the route I took for The Graduate, which is, I'm gonna put this out, and I probably will give it a new name just to kind of separate it from my first endeavor, but that's what inspired it ultimately. And I think that for the characters in the book, because I wanted it to be entertaining, I kind of I gassed it a little bit. I kind of threw some things in there just to make it, like you said, captivating. I wanted it to be entertaining. I wanted it to feel like a page turner, like you want to know what's going to happen with this person. So that part of it, the juice, if you will, that part, that's the fiction part.
Okay.
But the themes of it and just the feelings associated with it, and having friends that grow apart and then try to get it back together, relationships, issues that you have at that stage in life, etc. Those are that's the part that I ripped directly from,
Okay.
Probably everybody's diary. I think everybody goes through stuff like that.
Yeah. So I did a web series in 2012. Right, and the portion that I wrote, I wrote that my love interest in the show and I went to Howard University. I read here that you that something about Grambling State. You said the central Texas something graduate from Grambling State. Was there
basically, and that was just a little bit of a backstory right there in the beginning. Just saying that the protagonist and her friend like grew up, left their hometown, went to Grambling, had this amazing college experience, got their degrees, moved back. And so now at this point in the story is where they're basically starting their lives. So I just had them go. I just wanted them to go. I really wanted to like include an HBCU.
Yes,
and,
that's what I was getting
I just wanted to bring that into it. So I don't delve deep into that, but it is like a part of her story.
Okay, yeah, because I wanted to ask what was the idea behind including the HBCU?
I just wanted it to feel like. Well, first I had them come because, like you said, our experiences inspire our creative endeavors, right? So I'm from Texas, so a lot of the stuff I write is about the places that I've lived. So with them being from Texas, I wanted them to go somewhere that was within a like not super far away. Like they're not going across the country, et cetera. Like they're going somewhere that's not too far. And plus, like when you come from a smaller town and you're just really looking to engross yourself in new experiences, you want to be around like-minded people, you want a sense of community, all of this. So I felt like that was a good place to have them go. But again, I don't delve into it at all because my biggest thing is authenticity. Like I want it to feel real. And since that's not a school that I went to and I didn't have those experiences, I didn't want to like fabricate some. I don't delve deep into that part of it. But that was the kind of the thinking behind the choice, behind the decision.
Yeah, I had the same. Pardon me. I had the same idea when I wrote that portion of me and my girlfriend at the time attending Howard University because I hadn't been there. So I don't want to say, well, for example, I didn't want to say that we went to play bowling in the den.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And not have been there. So but I thought that was interesting. What I want to do is I want to read a portion of the book.
You sure?
Yes, I do. I want to show the descriptiveness. I'm just going to read a paragraph. I'm going to try to get through it. You know what I'm saying? I had to read it once or twice because I was practicing for this moment.
Okay.
Hold on right quick. Hold on, this is my wife. Hold on. Yo. Hello? Hello? Hey, look. Okay. So let's get back to it. So, I tugged on my velvety, thigh-high boots, straightening one, then the other, before deciding the answer was no, especially since everyone else's fashionable functional layers were a much better match for the frigid February night air. I love that. I think that, and as I was reading, I could see myself in February. I could see you or whoever that person was.
And that's a common thing that happens.
Whoever
like
that
when
person
you write
was.
something, everybody assumes that everything you write, like you are the character in everything that you write.
Yeah.
I assure you, I am not that interesting.
Okay. I really enjoyed that. And when I read it, I was like, okay, you getting good. So my whole thing was, and maybe I got to wait till the book comes out, but Ethan, did she dip out on him?
You know what? She gets out there. And for the people who supported my first novel, like you already have a sense of what the story is and like how it goes and what happens. Because again, I kept the same themes, the same essence of the story. The plot is basically the same. What is new and improved is the craft around it. Like the tone, the voice, the tension, etc., the descriptions, the prose, like that part is tighter, it's more concise. Like I'm very, very proud of the retooling. But yeah, she does. She gets out there a little bit. Like I said, some people who are feeling lost, they cope with that in different ways. Yeah. And so that's the way that she decided to kind of cope with this idea of what her life had become was to totally. Basically find a distraction from that. Okay. A distraction from the things that she didn't like about her life.
Okay. So today is August the 17th, 2019, and we have 136 days left in 2019. What do you hope to attain in those 136 days? And let me preface before you answer that question. See, I ask you that question because I started that timeline as a way to keep myself aligned with what I need to do in the year. Okay. So as the time goes, I hope to have accomplished something every day, whether it be I'm a better editor, whether it be I've watched a few videos on how to podcast, set up my podcast, and do all of that. So when I pose that question to the creators that come on, I just want to know what it is. And it's a different question than the question I'll ask you in the end, but I want to know what it is that you have in line for the rest of the year.
Okay. I have an answer for that.
Okay.
Because I, too, am somebody who is always thinking ahead and planning ahead, and at the end of every year, my husband and I kind of do our goals for the year kind of as a family. So I already know what I want to accomplish throughout the rest of this year.
Okay.
I'm kind of shifting gears. Like I said, I have the book that you started to read. I gave you like maybe the first 2 or so chapters or something like that. So I have that one. I have the sequel, and then I have the third book in the series that I plan to finish at some point. But once I'm done with that, I'm going to hang up my hat on writing my own books.
Okay.
Because I think maybe around this time last year, I had an epiphany. I feel like the Lord was like kind of waking me up and reminding me that writing the book was something I did because that's the only way I could envision that particular story, not because I wanted to be an author. Remember, I think I said earlier, I always wanted to work in film and television. I want to write screenplays. I want to write teleplays.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. You're right up my alley. Perfect.
Yes. So what I will be doing and have been doing throughout this year is building up my portfolio as it relates to screenwriting, because, and though I've done some small projects here and there, like I worked on a web series, like I do, like people will tap me on the shoulder who know that I'm a writer and kind of bring me in to help them with certain things, but nothing major. So now I'm kind of all that same energy I put into becoming a great author, because I spent many years trying to get that craft right. Like it was really important to me that the work speak for itself. So I'm talking about constant self-study, reading books, writing stuff, rewriting stuff, conferences, workshops, all of that. So which is why I've been growing and just like hitting a creative stride in a way that I really never had before. Like I'm in a really good place. But that same energy, I'm just redirecting it towards screenwriting. So I already developed my own television series, on paper. So I have my pilot script, I have my story Bible, I have my character descriptions, I have my season 1 outline. So I have all of that done. And now I've just started outlining a feature script. I just finished outlining it like yesterday, I think. So probably next week I'll start writing that. And when I'm done with that, I want to also do a spec script, maybe for like a sitcom or something, just so I have like a portfolio of work that's ready to go. Because an opportunity is not going to find me unprepared. Like I'm gonna have my portfolio ready, my resume is ready, like I'm ready to go. So that's what I'm working on through the end of this year. And then aside from that, because I have put so many years and so much effort into becoming a good author, I don't want to totally abandon that just because I don't have an interest in writing my own stories, which is why I started ghostwriting. So I got a certification in ghostwriting so I could learn how to write books for other people in their voice, because I can't use my voice. That's not, you have an idea, you have a story that you want to take from an idea to a finished property. You need somebody to kind of guide you through that process. I want to do that for you, but I want it to be yours. So I learned how to write in the client's voice, and I also just learned the business of writing books for other people as well. So the certification helped me with all of that. And I just started working with an author who wants to write something on financial literacy. So that's something that I'm going to be doing through the end of the year, maybe into early next year as well.
Because you getting into the question I'm going to ask you last week. Hold that nugget for us. Hold that nugget for us. Let's go here. What song is on your mind right now?
The song I was actually listening to on the way here was Middle Child. J. Cole.
Okay. Are you a middle child?
I'm not.
Okay.
Not in real life.
Okay.
Like, I have 2 older sisters and an older brother.
Uh-huh.
So I'm the baby.
Okay.
But the reason why I feel like that's relevant and why that was kind of on my mind coming in is because I think career-wise, I do feel like the middle child. Like, in my day job, I'm an academic advisor. So I have the youth coming into my office every day, and I am giving away the game. Like, I am literally telling them everything that I wish somebody would have told me when I was on the other side of the desk. So, and I really cherish that position to be able to help them define their goals, create an action plan for pursuing that, thinking about next steps after school, like just preparing them. And I work with creatives, ironically enough. I work in the School of Art, so I work with creatives. So I'm all about helping the folks coming after me, but at the same time, I've hit my creative stride, but I haven't figured it all out yet. I don't know everything. So I look to, my friends in my head, the people who are in the industry, who are in the game right now, who are just killing it. And I'm kind of looking to them as like my big sisters, if you will, like my mentors, my friends in my head, to kind of help guide this next phase that I'm going into. Yeah.
So the song that's on my mind, I've got 2, actually. The first one is I want to dedicate it to Nipsey Hussle. Rest in peace again. I want to go real big with him. I think in the end, my end goal, I want to just be the biggest. Okay. I want to be the biggest. So I want to go real big. Nipsey Hussle featuring Marsha Ambrosius. And the second one, I had a young lady on my podcast on episode number 19. And just like this episode, that episode was the first time that I spoke to an R&B artist, and we delved into her album. We're delving into your book this episode, but what I want to do differently this go around is I want to actually put the video in this episode.
Okay.
All right. So the songs that are gonna be on this video are Damn Pride and Friday Night. She actually spoke about that on the podcast, and it's a funny story. I subscribe to her channel. That's the thing about me. When you have done something, the world will know that you've done something. And I'm speaking about you, the author, screenwriter, and ghostwriter, because as soon as I find out, I'm going to share it along. I feel that as artists, that's what we need. Support as an artist is the easiest and most inexpensive thing that we can be lent. You know what I'm saying? So I feel that as an artist, I know you're an artist, I know she's an artist. What I want to do is I want to make sure that, at least from my end, if I feel that you're dope and I'm riding with you, I want everybody to know that you're dope. I want everybody to know that I'm riding for you. So I'm watching, pardon me, I'm just, I guess, looking at my YouTube channel, and I see that a video popped up from her, right?
Okay.
So I watched the video. And I mean, I heard the EP, and I was already in love with the EP. So I watched the video, and the first thing I do is I share it to my Tumblr. I share it to Facebook. And I hit Kennedy up, and I'm just like, hey, man, the video dropped. And she's like, what video? So she didn't know that it had dropped.
Okay.
But this is the type of fan that I am. I'm always watching and looking to support the people I rock with. So I asked for blessings to put this video up. Houston, Texas. This video, Damn Pride and Friday Night, I just seen it. I think you'll love it. The tracks are beautiful. This is for Demaria. Shout out to y'all. They'll be back on the podcast later on. But you're now watching and listening to episode number 26, and we're going to get ready to get into Damn Pride and Friday Nights. Peace and blessings.
We kicked it, something about you got me timid, cause you ain't gotta work hard to get your women. I see you keep it low, stay single, switch few hoes. Do your thing, no, I ain't mad at all. I just think that you deserve. I don't know what you've been through, but I've been thinking I can help you mend it. And on some real shit, need a queen that you can build with. Let me show you what you're missing. You're missing out. You need to give it up. That temporary loving ain't enough. You need someone to hold it down for you. You need a real one that's gonna ride for you. Boy, I just tryna put you on it, boy. So don't you waste my time. If you want it, gotta show me. If you want to be mine, you're running out of time. Out of time. I can't even lie. Woke up with it on my mind. Thought all I needed was one night, but now I'm thinking about you every night. Like, damn boy, you got me open. Don't know where this thing is going, but I'm hoping that we'll explore it. Cause it has potential to be more than what you're used to. Don't mean to pressure you, but I advise that you take a chance and try something new. Cause they won't love you like I do. I only wanna be with you. There's nothing else I'd rather do. No one does it like you do. I'll give my all to you. You see, you got me high, but I'm coming down now. I'm feeling your style. Let's take another flight. I don't really mind, long as you're coming by. If it's love you needin', then come and get it. 'Cause I just wanna be alone with you. There's nothing else I'd rather do. With you, I'm always in the mood, falling in love with you. Boy, I just wanna be alone with you. There's nothing else I'd rather do. With you, I'm always in the mood, falling in love with you.
Welcome back, Houston, Texas. Round of applause for that, man. Monique, I just love that song. I love that EP. The video was a beautiful video. And the reason why I feel so drawn is she sat literally in this same setup. Sir John Monet sat right there. Demaria sat right here. And they almost were in tears as to the reason why that video didn't drop. So episode number 19 is now streaming on my podcast. Oh, and we're on Spotify. So we left off. This is where I wanted to pick up with you, right? Eve, you remember Eve from college?
I do.
He had a lyric one time that said, "This, damn it, I don't want to misquote it," but it alluded to the fact that being a creative was too much for a relationship. right? So in that, because it's almost two sides pulling you. It's the relationship, the personal side, and it's the endeavors, your desire on this side. So they're pulling you. So it was like time to split. You're married. I'm married. Talk to us about how the support of your husband plays a role in your career.
The support of my husband is absolutely everything.
Okay.
Because we're a family unit,
Okay.
we have goals as a couple. We have joint goals. But outside of that, he has his career goals and I have mine.
Yeah.
But he's known me for so long. We've been dating. Well, we started dating in 2007.
Okay.
And, we were on and off for all those years until we got more on than off.
Okay.
And then we got engaged. We got married.
Okay.
We have this life together. So he knows me. He knows that this is innate, that this is built in me, that I was made for this.
Yeah.
And he's done nothing but back me up and support me the entire way.
Okay.
Like, even when I was too scared to step outside of my comfort zone, he's right behind me to shove me forward and help me keep going, and listens to me talk about stuff that I know he doesn't really care about, but he's engaged and he's giving feedback, and he's just a part of it. And he knows that this is what makes me happy. He wants me to be happy. So he's with me and rocking with me 100%. So I think it is all about having the right partner, because if you have somebody who doesn't understand that sometimes I can't go to the party because this is the only free time I have and I need to lock myself in a room for 12 hours so I can finish writing this chapter or whatever, you need somebody who can understand that. If they don't get it, then I can see that causing some friction.
So and the reason why I asked that is because I remember there was a point in time where y'all had moved.
We moved a couple times.
Okay, and I think one of the places you moved was Orlando. This might have been what, 2000? I want to say 8, 9.
No, not that far back.
Okay,
we got engaged in 2012.
Okay.
And then I actually had gotten laid, and he was living in Vegas at that time for his work. He had gotten a promotion. He moved to Vegas.
Okay.
And then when I got laid off, I moved out there with him. We were engaged at that point.
Okay.
And then right before we got married, he was transferred to Orlando. Orlando area. So we moved out there. So that was 2013.
Yeah.
And we were there for about 3 years, I think, before we came back to Houston.
I remember that vividly because I think that you had done some kind of acting thing or something like that.
I did.
And I was like, okay, she big time. She and when I say big time, I don't necessarily mean that you're making the top dollars that we aspire to make and what we love to do. I just really mean that, okay, I see her grinding.
Yeah.
I see you working. And at the time, if it was 2013, I know I had started acting around that time period, hosting my largest galas and stuff like that. But I remember distinctively seeing you in that light. And I was like, okay, I think I even messaged you. I don't know if I did, but I think I even messaged you. I was like, okay, I see you, because the commonality that we had was Orlando. I stayed in Orlando for about 8 months working at Disney World as a CP kid.
Okay.
And I just thought that was, I was like, okay.
I think I actually took that class right before we were leaving to come back to Houston.
Okay.
So that was like 2015 or maybe early 2016,
okay.
which I regret. If I had done it earlier, I probably would have done more classes, because that was just a really dynamic experience and a really dynamic environment. The school that I was at, shouts out to Class Act Studios in Orlando, Florida.
I remember it now.
Yeah.
I remember the flyer too.
They were because I was green. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
I don't act. I don't do any of that. But because I do have an interest in television and film, and I want to write, and who knows, that sometimes can lead to other things like producing, directing, etc. I realized that I don't have any experience working with actors.
Yeah.
And I wanted to understand their process. I wanted to understand what goes into that. And plus, I felt like it would help me in terms of my writing if I could understand how actors are approaching the script.
Yes.
Like kind of reverse engineering in a way. Then I know how to put it together in a way that suits them. So that's what brought me to the class.
Yeah.
And when I got there, it was the most uncomfortable I've ever been in my own skin. You are so vulnerable. You are so exposed doing these scenes and doing the work, etc. But it was really rewarding. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the creative process. And I learned that I actually wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
To say that I had never done it before. I think if I had stuck with it that I really could have like that's another skill I can add to my, repertoire.
Yeah.
And so maybe I will return to that. But I'm so impressed that you remembered that,
Yeah,
because that
yeah,
was
listen.
a while ago that we talked about
Listen,
that.
when I sometimes, I'm looking at people on social media for reasons, not to compare, but just to see where they started off and where they're going, because I want people to see that in me. You know what I'm saying? So when I noticed that, I was like, okay, okay. I thought about it and I internalized it, and I was like, okay, I see. I don't know where it's gonna lead, but I see it. So let's dive into the craft of writing for you.
Okay.
So you come up with an idea, right? The Graduate, right? What is the process like when you say, okay, you start to put pen to paper, or I don't know if you put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard? What is that process like?
I think that process might look a little different for everybody, but for me, I'm an outliner.
Okay.
I can't just start typing and see where that leads me. Like I need a roadmap to tell me where I'm going. So I always start with first getting to know my characters, because I need to know who they are, kind of in the way that, like, let's say your wife, for example, you probably know her better than anybody in the world. So if I gave you a hypothetical scenario right now, you could tell me how she would react in that scenario, because you know her so well. So for me, I had to get to know my characters first. So I do like their whole background. Like I get to know them. I have an idea of the type of people they are, and I know the story I want to tell, so I put those people I created in these hypothetical situations, and I kind of high level thinking, like bullet points, if you will. Like I want her to get here and then here, and at some point we're going to get there, and and I give myself this little roadmap, and then the process of writing is me filling in the gaps between the bullet points, like the details that get me from point to point to point to point.
Okay.
So that's the process for me.
Okay. So what happens when you have writer's block?
I have to step away from it. So usually, which is why I can be working on the same project for ever.
Oh, wow. Yeah, when you said 2 to 3 years, I was like, ooh.
But that's also because of the time in my life that was.
Yeah.
Like I was just trying to get my life together.
Yeah.
Like I had just got out of school and I was new to this whole adulting thing.
Yeah.
And so the desire to write had to take a back seat to my laying a good foundation for my personal life. So that's really the reason why it took me so long that first time. But now it doesn't really take that long. Like I told you, like I already did I got a whole series ready to go. I just need somebody to call me and say they want it,
Okay.
So it doesn't take as long now. But, oh, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
What were we talking about?
We're talking about writer's block and you stepping away.
Right. So I do step away. So, but not for years at a time though.
Okay.
Because that's what can lead to, well, I had this idea that one time that I never did anything with.
Yeah.
I might step away for a couple of days, a week, a couple of weeks, a month, whatever makes sense at that particular moment in my life. Because I still have responsibilities outside of my writing. Like I have a day job and I have a husband and a household and friends and family I want to support and things that I'm doing. So whatever makes sense in that moment is what I'll do. And usually that helps, because when I come back to it, I'm coming back with a fresh eye. And whatever, and I'm always thinking about it as well. So in that me stepping away, sporadically, randomly, I'll be thinking about, okay, so this happened before, this is what is happening next, what makes sense, what should be happening now. And so I'm constantly thinking about it, and usually just in the process of that, let my subconscious kind of work on it. By the time I sit down again, I'm like, oh, okay, I know what I need to do. Boom, 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 moving on.
Okay. So you write your first draft, okay? And that wasn't where I was going to go, but I want to just go ahead and get this out. You write your first draft. You say, okay, I'm finished writing. You take it and do what with it?
For a book, the next step would be to get somebody to, I usually do kind of like the first round of edits. Like I kind of go through and kind of like clean it up a little bit.
You do that yourself?
I'll do it for the first round of edits.
Okay.
Because I know when you're writing that first time, it's going to be, you just trying to get the thoughts out of your brain and onto the paper is going to be rough.
Yeah.
So I just kind of go through and like smooth out the rough edges and kind of clean it up and get it looking a little bit, a little bit nicer. And then after that would be to get somebody else, like an editor, to go over it and also like clean up any grammatical errors, but also kind of like high level overview as well, because I also want to know, like, how is it reading? Like, I know what I intended, but like, how are you reading this? Like, how is it coming across? Like, give me some feedback so I can make some more changes if I want to.
And then so then you wrote. So so now my thing is this: when I started writing, not necessarily the form of writing you're doing, just writing for myself as the actor to be able to portray this character, I didn't take it to anybody.
Well, screenwriting is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But not totally, because you do want somebody else to look at it. You've been staring at this thing for so long. You know it inside and outside, frontwards and backwards. So kind of like if you're writing an email or writing a paper, you know how sometimes you'll be writing and because you're thinking it, you'll skip a word.
Yeah.
Like you'll say, I'm going to the store. But when you reread it, you left out to and the because you said it in your mind, but you missed it on the page. Yeah. It's kind of that same thing. You're so familiar with it. If there is something wrong, after a while, you can't see it. Yeah. Like you need a fresh eye to come behind you and kind of tell you where you can clean it up. So with a script, that's going to be more of like a workshop situation. Like I actually have a young lady at my day job who also screenwrites. So which was just, fortunate. Like the Lord was looking out. He gave me a whole little writing buddy right at the day job. Yeah. So we can trade work and then we'll have lunch and we'll share like critiques and feedback to like do rewrites.
So you give it to somebody in the lane of an editor and not to a random person.
Correct. Yeah. I would not. I mean, when I was younger, back in the day, I might tap my friends or family to say, hey, read this and tell me what you think. Yeah. But what I've come to understand is that, we're all grown and busy and people can't just drop everything and look at something for you and then give it back in the time that I need it. Because I treat this like you would think I'm getting like paid. The way that I'm building my portfolio, the way that I'm writing these books, you would think I had a deadline. Like I'm working on it actively. So I can't sit around and wait forever for the people I love to return it. And I get that. Like I wouldn't even ask them to do that at this point because I just understand that they have their own things to be doing. So what that also means then is that I need a circle of writing friends who I can trade work with. So they can give me their stuff, I can give them mine. We'll read, I'll give you feedback, which is also helpful because we're in this, like we're doing this, so we know the mechanics of it, like plus the nuances of it. So the feedback I can give somebody or the feedback that they give me is valuable because they know the industry like you do. And it's not just like an outsider's opinion basically they're just telling you if they like it or not versus somebody telling you this specifically could be better if you did X, Y, and Z. So it's just a difference of critique depending on who you give it to.
That was what I was wondering because so many times if you open yourself up for random people to critique, it's almost like, okay, well, you feel this, you feel this, you feel this, you feel this, you feel this. And there's so many people that feel this, but you don't know where to go with beginning to try to like see it from that person's perspective, and now you have a whole plethora of people that are giving you advice that you may or may not need.
And that's going to happen regardless, whether you have an editor, whether you have one writing friend, whether you're in a writing group and everybody's critiquing, you do a workshop situation, you're going to have varying opinions sometimes. Everybody's going to agree other times. But really, I think the benefit is that you're getting a sense of what the audience or how other people are receiving it, and then you can go inside and say, I know what I intended. Is it coming across as I intended? If it's not, then you have a question to ask yourself. Am I going to trust that these folks just didn't get it for whatever reason and I'm going to stick with it? Or do you agree with them? Do you agree that, I probably could do this a little bit better and then I'll make my point will be stronger. So I'm going to go ahead and change it. You're going to get a bunch of opinions, but you at the end of the day have to make the deal. You have to decide, like, cut it or keep it, change it, leave it alone. What's going to happen? Like, you have to decide that.
Yeah. I'm sitting here with you right now, and I already know this. Without a shadow of a doubt, there will be a part 2 with us.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to speak that because I've learned so much in our conversation that I want to make sure that I get you on again so that we can elaborate more, get more into detail.
Let's do it.
So
that means I'm doing good.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said early on in the episode, hey, you know what, this is my first time, but it don't seem like it. You have not stuttered a bit. You know what I'm saying? You are speaking eloquently, and listen, this is a great episode.
All right, great.
This is where I want to go with it. Okay, so have I covered everything? So you read a lot.
I do a fair amount of reading, but honestly, I don't read as much as I want to. But again, life is, like you said, finding the time to just sit down in one spot and not have anything else to do and just read. That part has been challenging for me. So for years, I've had like a running list of to be read, the stuff that I want to read, and then I rarely ever do. So this year, that was actually one of my goals. So I probably so far have read like maybe 12 or 13 books this year. So I'm really happy with that. But I have to take a break from it sometimes because there are other things that I have to be doing. Like in my free time, am I going to read something or am I going to write something?
Yeah.
Or do I want to catch up on my podcast? As a screenwriter, when I'm watching TV or movies or whatever, it's not always just for my entertainment, like I'm studying it. Like, so am I gonna catch up on my Netflix shows? Am I gonna watch this new movie? Like, I'm watching the pacing of it. I'm watching the choices that were made by the writers, by the actors, what kind of sets they're using, the setup of the scene, like how they're filming it, when they're going in tight, when they're paying. Like, I'm studying it. Like, I only have so much free time.
Yeah.
So I have to decide, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And I try to plan it out in advance. I try to keep it balanced, but it's not. And of course, there's always content everywhere. You can't keep up with everything anyway. Yeah. So I've been giving that up.
I say that because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I was wondering, is it a possibility that you could be a podcaster and not listen to podcasts? So I'll pose this question: is it a possibility for you to be an author and not read books?
I think because I know that everybody would normally say, no, if you're a writer, you have to be a reader. And I do agree with that, but only to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's a natural innate ability, like there's somebody out there who can just do it. Yeah. But I do think that you are limiting your potential, no matter how talented you are. Like from the absolute most beginner, the most novice person you can think of, to the most experienced, wherever you are on that spectrum. If you're not a reader, you're limiting your potential because it's like the playbook. Yeah. You know, like that when you're reading what other people are doing, you're learning from their mistakes. Yeah. You're learning from their wins. If they're executing or doing something really well, there's a technique in there that you might want to apply to your own writing. Yeah. Their word choice, what the prose is looking like, the kind of characters they're using, the ideas they're coming up with for story, for plot, genre, etc. Especially if you write in a particular genre, there's usually a formula that goes along with your genre. Like the story usually unfolds like this, and then it's your job to make that formula fresh and fun and new. But there's a formula, and if you don't read, you don't know that. So when you're writing it, you're putting something together that a reader would then not understand because they read, they know what the formula is. This doesn't fit, and they probably won't get it. So I'll say that it is possible to be an author without being a reader. But that's not the case for most people because you are severely limiting your potential if you're not reading what's out there.
What's your genre?
Mine is new adult. That's what you read. Okay. So that's the genre that is right after young adult, which is like, 12 to 18, I think, something like that, kind of that adolescent time. But it's not into the adult genres who are talking to people who are established career people, grown kids, real serious issues, etc. From leaving college or just going to college to I'm married with some kids, there's a gap there. And so that's the new adult. Yeah. You know, that's the, I don't know, person in their 20s or right up to 30 who is just trying to establish themselves as an adult in every aspect, career, relationship, financially, just spiritually, and every way you can think. They're trying to find themselves. So I tend to write in new adult.
Okay. Okay. So the What's Next podcast is all about bringing, so I was sitting in my mother's kitchen, right? And I was thinking to myself, okay, John, you've done this, you've done that, you've done this, and this is all within one project, right? And so I started to ask myself, what's next? So I posed that question to you. What is immediately next for you, the author, screenwriter, and ghost writer?
So after this year, then.
Yeah.
Okay. So I do.
Is that okay? So everything that you were talking about in 136 days,
I want to do it this year.
Okay. So what would be next after that?
So what's next after that is I do want to put the retooled graduate book out.
Okay.
But I need to finish editing it.
Okay.
So I would focus on that. I have my author that I'm working with as a ghostwriter.
Okay.
So I want to finish his project.
Okay.
So that's also right. That's right there. That's going to take me into next year. So I'm gonna be doing that next year. I'm gonna be editing my book, preparing to put that out next year.
Okay.
And then I also want to start making things, not just writing things, but making things.
Okay.
So I earlier this year I actually partnered with my line sister Kendra Mills.
Okay.
Shouts out K Mills.
What up, K?
And we started working on a web series, like just kind of brainstorming ideas and, developing characters, developing story, etc. Because I'm working on so many projects, we kind of had to put that on hold for now. Yeah. But certainly by next year, if not before, I want to pick that up because I can see us actually taking that and actually filming it and like at least making a season 1 and putting it out and kind of exploring that area.
Okay. So what I like to do on the podcast is I like to give a token of my podcast and my company, a token of the company to every creative that comes on the podcast. This is a black SVI t-shirt that is exclusive to all the creatives that come on my podcast. Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you. So I got 2 shirts.
You got 2 shirts.
I'm special.
No doubt.
I got 2 shirts. I get to come back one more time for two appearances.
Yes.
I'm doing a thing.
Yes, man. Houston, Texas. I do what I do for myself to prove I can do it for others. Peace and blessings.
Yo, it feel like 95, Sachi on my body, Biggie, Jigger, Puffy, all that ballin' is a hobby. And I'm wildin' in my wallies, them valleys, no Pilates. More way get you more wet, nah that's the Spumante. My crystal ball, I see crystal, I crystal y'all with that. I saw the sign like Ace of Spades, that Ace of Spades get cracked me like cheers to the money guys, the Willie niggas who buy them bottles, and then they spill these liquors. Yo, salute my dude. I see you, dawg. 5 bottles, 1 dick. Why I need 2 bras? I know I'm out of line, but love is shower time. You know it rose rain when your cloud is 9. Get off that high ass hussy. This a private party. Been on my dick too long. Your breath on private party. You gon' be nice and naughty. These walls on priceless Audi. This the upper crust. Fuck is up. Over and done. Overdose. Guess we